Hi, it's Amy from Select Travel Holidays, and I hope you're enjoying our virtual touring and destinations festival. In this presentation, we are looking at a destination or continent which has practically everything. It's got stunning coastal beaches, it's got glaciers, mountain ranges, deserts, it's even got fjords, it's got incredible ancient ruins, it's got rainforests, and it's got cosmopolitan, vibrant cities. It's got incredible food ranging from ceviche to world-class steaks. If you're feeling adventurous, in some parts you might like to try guinea pig. I would say try it because, personally I always think it's important to try the local cuisine, to give it a go. Although personally I'd say that guinea pig is a little bit chickeny, not much meat. Sometimes perhaps a little bit more, effort than what you get as a reward. But of course, and I forgot the vineyards as well, fantastic wines. So where can I be talking about? Well, obviously it's got to be South America. And a vast, incredible continent which has, I've just given you some of the examples of the amazing contrasts and things you can experience and see. And so we've asked Latin Roots to showcase this wonderful, wonderful continent for you because they have incredible specialist knowledge of South America. Their teams have either travelled extensively or even worked or lived in South America. So they know the continent intimately and really well. So they can offer you either your own sort of private, tailor-made, independent tour, or they could also do small group tours. But I'm going to leave it to Gaynor to introduce you to Latin Roots and particularly to the fabulous continent of South America. And I'm sure you'll find this presentation as inspiring and informative as I did.
Hello there, welcome to Select Travel Holidays Virtual Touring Festival. My name is Gaynor and I work for a tour operator called Latin Roots that specialises in Latin America and Central America, featuring Costa Rica only. So I'm going to take you on a journey today through the fantastic continent of South America, touching on Costa Rica as well, as just mentioned, and hopefully inspire you for your next touring holiday. So I'm just going to share my screen and make my face disappear. Okay. So a very warm welcome to South America and Costa Rica. So just before I start, I'd like to offer everybody who has registered through Select Travel Holidays a special discount when the screen comes up. This will be a £300 discount off any holiday booked with us before the end of March. There we go, there it is. So that voucher will be available through Select Travel Holidays. I will forward it to them and I will mention it again at the end of the presentation. So who are we? Who are Latin Roots? We have been going about 9 years. We're an award-winning tour operator, now one of the UK's leading tour operators for Latin America. We only feature Latin America, so we are experts in that area. What you find is that when Select Travel Holidays do speak to our reservations team, that they are speaking to a fantastic team of experts that have travelled extensively around the continent. We all have a real passion for the continent and the Latin culture, and hopefully that will come through today as well in the presentation. So what do? We have two main brochures. The first one is a small group escorted tours, which we've just relaunched. It should have been, our first full programme should have happened in 2020, but obviously with COVID, everything was cancelled. So we have relaunched that just last month, and it's going really well, as it was last year. So fingers crossed, we have lots of bookings for that, right up until, well, departures right up until the end of 2022 as well. We also have a second brochure, which is this one here with alpaca on the front, just at the bottom right here. And this is our tailor-made brochure. So we do tailored tours, just bespoke for you. So just basically meeting your exact requirements. So whatever you want to do within any of these countries, be it single country or multi-country, we can build an itinerary and a tour especially for you. So just moving on to just some facts that you will need to know. Best time to go to South America. So on the right hand side here we have the map of the continent, and we have the green line running through there. That is the equator. Everything that sits on the equator and above, you can go any time of the year and you'll get great weather. So Ecuador and the Galapagos, northern Peru, Colombia is great at that time, and also northeast Brazil as well, and some of these smaller property destinations just up here. We don't feature Venezuela, and that's one of the ones that we don't feature, more so because it's politically unstable at the moment. So that's the north, and then everything that sits south of that equator is the opposite season to us. So our summer is their winter. The only exception to that rule would be Peru. The best time to visit Peru is from May right the way through to the end of September. And that's just because it has 3 climate regions with the Andes as well, and the Pacific coast. So, you know, people want to go to Peru and see the iconic Machu Picchu, which is a great bucket list destination. If you went in sort of January, it's going to be rainy, it's going to be cloudy, and you're not going to be able to see that amazing view. So that's the only exception. And then we have Costa Rica that sits up here in the Central America, and that has a tropical climate. So very similar to the Caribbean. You have a dry season, December to April, and you have the green season, May to November. And then you'll find that it's quite rainy September, October, although there's a lot of national parks out in Costa Rica, so it probably will rain most of the year, but it's very warm, and they're just quick, sharp bursts. How to get there. So there's lots of different flight options for you. Regional, sort of Manchester, Leeds, Scotland, the Midlands, and then out from London. There's direct flights that go from Heathrow to most of the main South American cities. San Jose in Costa Rica has a direct flight with BA from Gatwick. Unfortunately, BA used to fly direct from Gatwick to Lima, but they have just pulled it. And I do think that is just purely because of the demand, obviously, with COVID at the moment. So we hope to see that flight come back as soon as travel resumes fully. So at the moment, there's no direct flights to Peru, Bolivia or Ecuador. We have lots of different options for you to fly out through Europe. So do obviously speak to your sales consultant at Select Travel Holidays, and they will speak to us about the flights. So how do we get you around? There's lots of different options. Obviously, when you arrive into South America or into the countries, we have ground handlers and teams on the ground that will meet you. You can have a private transfer to your hotel, or you can have a shared transfer with guides available as well. Within the countries, domestic flights are best. If I just go back a second, sorry, just to show you this map again. If, just to put into perspective how big this continent is, if you was to fly from the north up here, say from that sort of peak at the top there, or the tip of Colombia, right the way down to the bottom of Chile and Argentina, if there was a flight, that would take you 12 hours. So you can see how big the continent are, and the countries are huge as well, Brazil being the 5th largest country in the world. So flights are definitely the way that you would get around within the countries. One country that you don't need to do flights domestically is Costa Rica. There's no train network in South America except for tourist trains. So you've not got anything like, if anyone's been to America and you've got the Amtrak, there's nothing like that in South America. We do have tourist trains, which I will talk about later on in the presentation, and they are in Peru and Ecuador. Another way to travel is if you are quite independent and you like to do your own thing, there are places that you can do self-drive. So great way to travel and explore independently. Good self-drive locations would be in Costa Rica. It's very easy country to drive around, and it's small enough as well. So, you know, we have options for a self-drive touring holiday that takes in San Jose, the capital, Arenal, which is the volcano area, Monteverde, which is the cloud forest, and then you end up on a beach. Another great area is the Lake District of Patagonia, so within Chile and also Argentina. But there's a great route that leads from the Lake District in Chile down to Patagonia called the Austral Highway, and that's a 770-mile route taking you through sort of forests, mountain ranges, lakes, really spectacular scenery and amazing wildlife. So some self-drive options we can do for you there as well. So just to give you an idea of some of our small group escorted tours, we have a Costa Rica one here, and this is an 11-day tour. The price there is $1,999 per person. That price does not really change all the way through the year. The only thing that you have to add on to that is a single supplement if you are travelling solo, and that is between £480 and £520. You also then have to add your international flights, and you can get flights out to Costa Rica for as little as £400, but we can package that all up together for you. This itinerary takes in San Jose, which is where you start in the capital. It also visits Tortuguero, which is a unique ecosystem of waterways and rainforests. It's very much about flora and fauna. So it's a maze of canals and waterways where you get to see wildlife, sloths in the trees, monkeys, lots of nature reserves involved in this itinerary. Costa Rica is an amazing destination for nature and wildlife. You also take in Arenal, which is the volcano area. So you've got hot springs there, walks, a bit more of an adventure playground, zip wiring in the trees in the jungle, hanging bridges like you can see here in this image. And you can also do something like a coffee and chocolate tour. And then you have the cloud forest area, which again is more wildlife. There are tour extension options to these small group escorted tours as well, where you can head to the beach and have, say, 4 or 5 nights on the Caribbean coast, for example. So that's the Costa Rica one. The next one is our Peru Highlights Tour. This is a 13-day tour taking in Lima, the capital, Arequipa, which is known as the White City, which is just south. It's all to do with the way the rock that they use to build it. It's all very, very white, very clean cut, beautiful colonial city. And that's the gateway to the Colca Canyon, where you can go and see the condors. From there, you'll then head over the mountains over to Lake Titicaca, which is the highest navigable lake in the world. Sits at 3,800 meters, really amazing up there to see the floating islands, which I'll talk about later on. And then you head over to Cusco, which is the gateway to the Sacred Valley, and obviously Machu Picchu, which you can see here in the image. You do a train journey that takes about 3.5 hours. And here you've got an optional extension to add on somewhere like the Amazon or the mysterious Nazca lines on the southern desert coast. Or for those culture vultures, you can head north and visit the pre-Incan sites of the north of Peru. This tour is $2,699 per person. Again, just need to add on your international flights, which are between sort of anything from sort of £500 upwards, depending on airline and class. Single supplement on this one is £520 per person. The next one is Patagonia. So this is an amazing itinerary that takes in 2 countries. So starting in Buenos Aires in Argentina, you then head down to the beautiful Lake District to a place called Bariloche. This is a point where you can actually cross over the border. It's a really beautiful village, very sort of outdoorsy, lots of activities on the lake. You cross over the 3 lakes and the mountains over to Puerto Varas in Chile, onto the National Park of Torres del Paine National Park, which you can just see in the background there. Then you go back across the border to a place called El Calafate, where you can visit the Perito Morena Glacier, and that's a huge glacier, one of the largest in the world. Pretty amazing to see. And this tour is from £3,799 per person. Again, that price is quite fluid throughout the year. There's not much increase. It's just your flight price you need to add on. And your single supplement for this is $460. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the tours. We have many, many more, but I could sit here all day and tell you all the ones that we do. These are just three that I thought would be a good mixture. Just some extra information, you don't need a visa when travelling to South America. So for any British passport holder, no visa is required. Languages out on the continent, English is heavily spoken throughout. Portuguese is spoken in Brazil, and every other country is Spanish. You don't need to speak the language. I've been many times and I only know the very basics, and I get by. The guides are out there to help you, the tour guides and the leaders, and they all speak the local language. There's no barrier. And then I've just popped on just there on the bottom left-hand side, a dining out guide for you. So based on a £25 meal equivalent in the UK, these are the sorts of prices that you're looking at out in Ecuador and Costa Rica. This is a little bit more expensive than everywhere else, more so because it's the dollar. Brazil, Chile and Argentina, you can eat out for well, £15 or even less some places. Peru and Colombia 10, and Bolivia is one of the cheapest places to eat out. So what does South America and Costa Rica have to offer? So we're going to start with the bucket list destinations, and I'm sure you can all guess what those are, or if not, then I will go through them individually for you. So up on the top left here, we have the fabulous Iguazu Falls. On the right hand side here, we have Machu Picchu. Bottom left, we have the Maui Statues of Rapa Nui, otherwise known as Easter Island. And then we have the giant tortoise of the Galapagos. So I'm just going to start with Iguazu Falls. You would normally fly to Iguazu from Rio or Buenos Aires on an itinerary or a tour. We'd recommend minimum 1 night, maximum 2 nights here. It's a 2-hour flight, 2 hour 25 minutes from Rio and 2 hours from Buenos Aires, and it's a protected national park. And it's not just one waterfall at the falls, it's 275 separate cascades, roughly sits about 263 feet. It's absolutely beautiful. The national park's got lots of wildlife, so you can see toucans, parrots, there's over 400 other species of birds. You get to see tapirs, giant anteaters, howler monkeys, butterflies. It's just amazing. And you have 2 different sides to it. So just a little pointer there, the falls were at their fullest from January to March. I went in June and it was just amazing to see. The weather was a little bit rainy for us, but it was still quite warm and it was great. You can stay within the national park area on the Brazilian side. There's a fantastic hotel called the Balmond das Cataratas where you can actually walk to the falls, or you can stay in the rainforest on the Argentinian side, which takes about 20 to 25 minutes drive to get you over to the falls. Or there's a small town, Puerto Iguazu town, which is a 15-minute drive from the falls as well. So there's quite a few different options there. This is just to give you an idea of the scale of the national park. So you have the Brazilian side just over here where you can see the Brazilian flag and then these blue dots. And then the Argentinian side is the biggest side. This is on the right-hand side just here. You would normally spend a full day on the Argentinian side, and it's all a series of walkways and circuits that you can walk, and you're literally on top of the boardwalks, which are on top of the falls, which you'll see some images in a minute of my own photographs. Pretty amazing to see, and you end up walking sort of up here at the top. You can just see where my mouse is, which there's a boardwalk that leads you across here, and it takes you to the Devil's Throat, which is the main surge of water. So you do a full day on that side. You can do a boat trip that takes you just underneath here, under the falls on this side. And then you do half a day's tour on the Brazilian side, unless, of course, you're staying at the Balmond das Cataratas and you can just walk across as many times as you like. And then there's platforms here. It's not as big, this one, which is why they only need sort of a couple of hours on this side. And this gives you a view back across the falls. It's pretty amazing to see. So just some images here, and you can see the walkways just up here on the top left, and then again here, and then the boat ride at the bottom. And then these are just some of my images here, apart from this one up here, with the boat trip. And then this is a photograph taken from the boardwalk on the Argentinian side, so you can see how amazing. It's literally right on top of the falls. It's fabulous. So moving on to Machu Picchu and Cusco, and I'm including Cusco on this one because Cusco is the gateway city and it's not to be missed. It's an amazing city. It's one of my favourite cities. We would recommend you spend 3 or 4 nights here. It is at altitude. It sits at 3,300 metres. So we do say that you spend sort of 24 hours just relaxing and just acclimatising to the altitude. You'd usually fly here from Lima, the capital, over to Cusco. Cusco is a beautiful city. It's full of colonial buildings, cobbled streets, lots of museums. You've got a pisco sour museum where it's the local cocktail. It's quite potent. You've got a chocolate museum there. Lots of boutiques, shops, cafes and bars. So this is just a video that I took when I travelled there a few years ago, and it's from a viewpoint. This fort dates back to, gosh, it's something like 270 AD. It's very, very old fort. So it's high above the city, but it gives you a really great viewpoint across the city and the Andes. So in a second, you'll see the main square where there's the cathedral and the church, and there's a fountain. This comes to life at night time here. And lots of hotels within walking distance along these streets. So you don't tend to go sort of further up here. It's all based sort of around this main area here. So it's very easy to get around. It's got the historic centre. It's an easy walking city. As mentioned, you would stay here, and then you would go out and you would do trips to the Sacred Valley, and this is the gateway to Machu Picchu. So moving on to Machu Picchu, there's a couple of options you would do. I did the train journey. So from Cusco here, so I said it sits at 3,300 meters. You would jump on a train at Pura station just outside of the city, and you would do a journey for about 3.5 hours down through the Sacred Valley, down through some of these beautiful towns. Ollantaytambo is a fantastic town in the Sacred Valley, and then over to the town of Aguas Calientes, which is the town that sits at the bottom of the mountain where Machu Picchu is. We did a full day tour. You can actually stay in Aguas Calientes, which makes the opportunity to go to Machu Picchu better, because you can have a couple of visits, so maybe one in the afternoon and one the following morning. You would get off in Aguas Calientes and you would have a sort of a wander around all the markets. There's some really pretty boutiques, and you would then take a 20-minute bush ride up a very steep mountainside. It's quite a steep drop on either side. It's quite I would say scary. It's not scary, but if you're scared of heights, it can be. But it's a great journey to do. It's quite exciting to know what you're actually going up this road for. There's been no accidents, so please don't let that comment put you off. And then you get to visit Machu Picchu. The other things that you can do are trekking. So there are lots of different treks that you can do from the centre of the Sacred Valley. So from Ollantaytambo here, there is the Inca trek you can do, which takes about 4 days, includes a little bit of camping. And the trek will bring you in through the sun gate at the top of the mountain to get this amazing view at sunrise over Machu Picchu. There is a hotel right at the gates of the citadel, and it's a 22-roomed Belmond Sanctuary Lodge. Beautiful luxury hotel that sits just there. So those are the few different options that you can do. And these are some of the scenery. This is some of the scenery. So train-wise, this up on the left here is the Hiram Bingham. This is a Belmont train. So this is the highest standard. This is a luxury train journey. And there are other options. We did Inca Rail, which was first class, and you have this entertainment carriage. You have a 3-course dinner sort of out and back, a 3-course lunch and then dinner on the way back. But these are some of the views that you get sort of in the middle here. And then this is the town of Aguas Calientes. So you can see it's really sort of deep into the mountains, really beautiful. And then obviously you get to spend a couple of hours up at the ancient citadel. The citadel itself was founded by Hiram Bingham, who the train is named after. He was an explorer, and he founded the site in 1911, and all this was sort of overgrown with trees. They stripped it back and they found all these terraces where they did all their sort of all their agriculture. They had storage rooms here, houses, temples. It's pretty amazing to see. It's one of those places that, you know, I took this picture. I've got about 50, 60 of the same picture, but me in different angles. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing to see. You can also, if you're very adventurous, can do a trek up this mountain here, which is called Huayna Picchu. And if anyone would like to Google the staircase of death, you'll understand why I didn't do it. So it's a very, very steep sort of natural staircase that goes up this mountain, and you can do a trek. So you need to make sure that you've got extra insurance if you're going to be doing that one. So that is Machu Picchu. Moving on to Easter Island. Easter Island belongs to Chile. It's a small island. It's 30 kilometres by 22. It's got over 3,000 of the Maui statue heads that it's really famous for. It's all about the ceremonial grounds, about the tribes, the Rapa Nui people that used to live there, you know, why they made the heads. They sort of made them as like memorial for tribe members that had died. They're well over 2,000 years old, and there's a lot of mystery around how they moved the statues. And because they were made sort of on one side of the island and they're sort of dotted, you can just see all the heads sort of dotted all the way around here. Up until 70 years ago, there was no trees on the island, so they think that they used the trees to move them, and that's why it sort of it looks barren. So just kind of going from Chile, usually this is a side trip from a Chile tour. You would fly 5.5 hours from Santiago out to Hangaroa in the Pacific Ocean. It is a Pacific, South Pacific island, but it's not like you would expect. It's not like Bora Bora, Fiji. It is quite far out, 5.5 hours. The next island across is Tahiti, so it's very, very, very remote, but it's very traditional. It's just some images here. When you're driving around, it's like sort of driving through the moorlands. You can see here, I mean, this doesn't look very tropical at all, but then you've got these amazing Maui statues, and you can just about make out the little dots there, which are people, and these are huge. This is an area called Tongariki, and it's the Big 15, so it's the largest of the statues, and the middle guy here is supposed to be about 80 tons. It's just amazing to see. There's a lot more on the island. You can do horse riding, quad biking, and you get to visit sort of the different areas. The quarry, this is the quarry I was talking about. So this is where the heads were supposed to have been made, but they're not just heads, they were like full bodies. So you can see here on top right, they're kind of cut out of the rock. And then this one in the middle, you can just about make out this guy here that's just been left and abandoned. And then the reason why they're stuck into the ground is that they've been, the work was stopped, the Rapa Nui people unfortunately died off, and the statues slid down the mountain into the ground. It's very, very interesting to see. And it's just a destination that's very mysterious and blows your mind when you're there. So it's definitely worth a 4-night side trip if anyone's considering a tour of Chile. Galapagos, I'm going to touch on very quickly because there is a section on that later on, but we would recommend 5 days or 8 days here, which is usually a cruise. 14 volcanic islands, visited back in 1800s, and I can't remember the exact date, by Charles Darwin, which inspired his theory of evolution. It's very unique, very special, and you're going to get the chance to see animals here that you're never going to see anywhere else in the world. Africa's got the big 5, the Galapagos has got the big 50. And here's just a few of them. So moving on to cities, definitely worth staying a couple of nights in some of the cities here. You've got government buildings, you've got beautiful squares, fantastic architecture, lots of museums, art galleries, amazing shopping. So, some of these cities have just, for example, Buenos Aires, this is top left here. This is the government building behind where me and my friend are stood. This is where Eva Peron did her famous speech from the balcony, or if anyone's seen the film Vida, where Madonna sang. Buenos Aires has got sort of 17 different districts. It's called the Paris of South America. You know, I'm going to show you a picture of another district in a minute on the next slide, and it's just so different from this beautiful square here. So, you know, very unique districts that are easy to get to and definitely worth a full day tour of visiting them. You've also got Recoleta Cemetery in Buenos Aires, where you can visit Eva Peron's tomb. This middle picture here is La Paz, which is the highest city in the world at 4,500 meters in Bolivia. Cusco, this is one of my images here, which is the city that I mentioned earlier. In Peru, very colonial. You've got Lima, which is on the Pacific coast. So, you know, definitely worth visiting these cities for 2 or 3 nights. So I showed you Buenos Aires, where me and my friend on the previous page were stood. This is La Boca, which is a different district again. So that was about 10 minutes away from that first picture. It's where Maradona's from. It's where the tango was born from. It's very quirky. It's the old Italian district. Cobbled streets. You've got tango dancers on the streets dancing to try and get you to go into bars and restaurants. It's a really amazing area to go to and visit. So, you know, definitely worth doing it. And then we also have Lima just here as well. You also have lots of things to see as well in the cities. So this is Quito up in the top left just here. This is the monument that marks the exact point of the equator. So you can just see the line running through. So you can stand with a foot on each hemisphere. You've got Sugarloaf Mountain and Christ Redeemer in Rio. So lots of different things in these cities to see in lots of different areas. You know, you've got bohemian quarters, really quirky, colourful markets, cobbled streets, handicraft markets, and really bustling nightlife. And you can do lots of different things here. So we can book a tango show, you can learn how to do the tango, you can have a cooking class, or you can just have a wander around like I am here up on the right-hand side and just enjoy the street art and the ambience of the streets. Just a few more images just here of what's sort of surrounding. Actually, this picture here, obviously that doesn't look like a city by no means. It's in the middle of the countryside. This is an example of what's close to the cities. So this is the Pampas area of Argentina. So about an hour and a half drive from the bustling city of Buenos Aires, you've got this beautiful wide open space full of estancias. You've got the Gaucho cowboys that live there, and they're famous for that area. It's very much like the Western style USA, and that's a great place. You can stay there for a couple of nights. We just went for the day. You've also got temples. This picture here is a temple called Huacapaclana, and it's a temple that's right in the city centre of Lima, and there's a restaurant just sitting on the edge. Talking about food, some amazing food. They cater for every taste. I don't like spicy food, and a lot of spice is put into South American food, but you just mention it to them and they cater for you. So I've never had an issue. They have amazing chocolate, fantastic coffee, the best steak for any meat lovers, and obviously some of the best wine comes from South America as well. And then they have delicacies like this one here, top right. And I'm really sorry if anyone has pets, but this is actually guinea pig, which is a delicacy in Peru. So I did try that, and it was very delicious, I have to say, even though I did have pets when I was younger. So my apologies to anyone who has pets. But they cater for everybody: vegetarians, vegans, meat lovers, sweet tooth, wine lovers. So moving on to the culture. So there's lots of different culture, very, very different. So just looking at Brazil, Brazil has a real mixture of cultures, from the indigenous Indians of the Amazon to the Africans and the Portuguese up on the sort of the northeast coast. They love their festivals, they love the carnivals. Obviously, it's where the Rio Carnival was born. That's the celebration before Lent. So they have 4 days of party, and we have Pancake Day. You know, the Rio Carnival is amazing. It's more than 70 samba schools that take part, each of them sort of coming from these tiny towns and favelas around the city. You get to see amazing costumes. It's a real party, very vibrant atmosphere, and it needs to be booked months and months in advance. normally 18 months in advance for something like that. Moving on to Argentina, it's a bit more refined, a bit more Western. And obviously, as I mentioned before, the one culture that stands out for me especially is the Gauchos. So these date back to the 18th century. They're similar to the USA cowboys, very skilled horsemen. They wear traditional clothing. They're on working ranches, and it's just great to experience that as well. You've then got the old Incan Empire, which you're going to find mostly in Peru, parts of Bolivia and Ecuador. And this dates back to the 12th century. They have their own language in parts, especially in Peru. They have the Quechuan, which is this area here near the Uros floating islands, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. Beautiful clothing. They're very proud of their history. This bottom right picture here, as I mentioned, the Uros floating islands. So this is Lake Titicaca, which, as mentioned previously, is the highest navigable lake in the world. On the Peruvian side, just off the city of Puno, there are these 40-odd floating islands that are made of reeds. It's amazing to see. You've got these tribes that live on them. They have sort of an island which is called a school on. They have the sort of the president of the island, which is like granddad, and then they have the family that live in little huts around it. They make their fabrics, they sell them on to tourists, and they accept visitors sort of at different parts of these islands, so everyone gets their fair share. It's amazing to see, so definitely worth a visit if anyone's going to Peru. And here's just some of my images here. They even get you to sort of get dressed up into their little their outfits that they wear, which is good fun. Colombia has a sort of a Spanish history dating back to the 16th century. There's a lot of culture sort of around the sort of the Pacific coastal side. You have sort of these these fishermen that live on the villages, and they sort of live by fishing. That's really interesting to see in a really sort of unknown part of Colombia that not many people know about. You've also got Cartagena with the old fortress. There's a lot of history there, very rich heritage where they're into their arts, their music, theatre. So you'll often see sort of singing and dancing on the streets, lots of festivals in different areas, amazing food. There's quite a lot of African Caribbean influence in Colombia. So that's definitely one to watch out for. And also you have the part of the Amazon there as well. So moving on to landscapes, it's just amazing. It's one of the diverse places I've ever been to anywhere in the world. So I'm just going to show you an example of how diverse it is. So Argentina and Chile sit next to each other. So we can see Argentina here on the right. Chile is the long, thin one on the left. Starting from the north, you have one of the driest places on Earth, which is in Chile. It's called the Atacama Desert. You think that you might be on the moon when you're stood there, and I'll show you some pictures in a second. It's all about red rocks, lagoons, canyons, salt mountains that glisten in the sun. There's an amazing little town there called San Pedro Atacama. It's a real quirky town with lots of little shops and restaurants, little handicraft markets. It's an amazing, amazing town. I stayed up there for 4 nights in 2019, and I just didn't want to leave. It was amazing. And then across to northwest Argentina, we have arid desert. You've got huge red rock formations. This area is steeped in indigenous history, so you've got lots of ruins from ancient civilizations that you can visit. You've got the capital of Salta, which is a colonial city, quite compact, so you can walk around it. Really pretty city there as well. Moving, actually, just whilst I'm at it, whilst you're up there, there's no pollution up on the Atacama Desert, so the night sky is amazing. A lot of the hotels have their own observatories. We were able to see some constellations that I'd never even heard of, and you've never seen before, and it was just amazing. We move down to the central region here. You have the areas that do the wine regions, so from Uruguay through Argentina into Chile, into the Central Valley region. And it's all these beautiful rolling hills, vineyards. You can do horse riding, which is what I'm doing here, which ended up at a vineyard where we did lunch and wine tasting, which was amazing. So any wine lovers will love that area there. And if you're doing a lot of touring around, this is a really nice place to just chill out after, or maybe in the middle. So, anything like that we can suggest for you. Moving south, we have the beautiful Lake District area of Argentina and Chile, and this is where you can cross between the two countries, which I mentioned at the very beginning, talking about the Patagonia escorted tour. So there's a place called Bariloche, which is probably about where this arrow is, and you can go across to Puerto Varas in the Chilean Lake District, across 3 lakes, over the mountains. It's just beautiful. And then moving down to the south into Patagonia, which runs across the 2 countries. So this is all of Patagonia here. You have fjord cruises that you can do from Chile. You can do the Torres del Paine National Park. You can go further south to the Tierra del Fuego National Park, and that's the gateway to Antarctica down there. So you've gone from dry in the north to ice in the south. Very, very diverse. Here's just some images here. So this was the Atacama Desert, which I said was very much like being on the moon, which it was. We did sunrise very early in the morning to watch the sun come over the Andes mountains and volcanoes. This is a wine region lodge that I stayed at, and then you've also got the Torres del Paine National Park just there. Moving on to Bolivia. Very secluded and often underrated, I would say. It's often missed out on people's wish list for South America, and it tends to be people that have done the other countries that will do this one last. It's an amazing destination. It's home to one of the world's most dangerous roads, if anyone's seen Top Gear. You've got large salt flats, the largest salt flats in the world, which you can see just here on the pictures. Which are the Ulani salt flats. It's a prehistoric lake stretching across 11,000 square kilometres, and there, on the way there is actually a train graveyard that you can see as well. So it's pretty amazing to see that. Some images there. You also have the gateway to Lake Titicaca. So on the Bolivian side, just here, there's a city called Copacabana, and you can go out and visit some of the islands. Not like the floating islands that I showed you on the Peruvian side. These are more islands that sit further into the lake, that are not floating. They're just normal islands with their own tribes on there. Back to Peru, we saw before, you obviously have the Amazon there as well, which we missed out. So we saw some of the scenery before for Peru. And then we also have Ecuador, which has cloud forest, which is just north of the capital of Quito. The Mindo cloud forest, it's got 500 different types of birds, waterfalls, really beautiful cloud forest. You can just see this just up here on the top left. And then you have the volcanoes. There's an area called the Avenue of the Volcanoes, and Cotopaxi is one of the most famous, and that's the national park there. And you can do a self-drive through there, or you can just you can stay at some little sort of hotels along the route. There's lots of activities, there's trekking, there's climbing, and you can also do a train journey there called the Devil's Nose train journey, and it's a train line that's built into a sort of a sheer a wall of sheer rock, so it's quite, I haven't got a picture of it actually, but it's quite amazing to see. But there's some train journey options that you can do there as well. Colombia, you've got lots of different options in Colombia as well for landscapes. So you've got these beautiful man-made lakes here and pretty villages at the area that's east of Medellin. Medellin is a city that was famous for Pablo Escobar, and this is a town called Guatape, and there's a huge rock that you can climb up and you get these amazing views, which is where this is from. A lot of people might think it's not safe to go to Colombia. Please don't think that. It's a really safe destination to go. Medellin, sort of 9-10 years ago, was probably one of the worst places in the world to visit, but it's been voted one of the most innovative cities in the world. It really has come on leaps and bounds, and it's definitely a destination that needs to be on your list if you're thinking of Colombia. You also have the Caribbean coast, so you've got beaches there. You've also got the Pacific coast, where you've got sort of marine life. You can get to see whales down there at certain times of the year. There's the coffee regions as well. You've got the national park area where It's very much about jungle meets ocean, so there's a lot of nature. There's no sort of hotels built around here. You have to walk to the beach, from like trek from a certain point to get to the beach. A few images of the coffee region just there as well. And they basically hand pick the coffee beans, so it's really a great sort of thing to see that they carry on the old traditions of coffee picking. And then, did anyone know that in Colombia there is a desert in the mountains? Who knew? It's a very unique landscape. It's all rocky canyons. There's lots of cactus plants. Used to be a lush forest millions of years ago. It's now a dry desert. Lots of different colours, flora and fauna, and you also have lots of fossils in this area because obviously it's that old. So that's quite an interesting area to visit, the Titicaca Desert in Colombia. And then the new Key Pacific coast is where I mentioned about the marine life earlier. And then after all that touring of the cities, the bucket list, the landscapes, the deserts, can you sit down and chill on a beach? Of course you can. So there's lots of options in Brazil on the northeast coast. You have obviously the main resorts of Rio, but south of Rio there's some beautiful little towns and villages, Buzios, Paraty, to name a few, that are really traditional villages like this and not as bustling and big as Rio, which is very busy. And you also have lots of nice options just up on the northeast coast of Brazil as well. So there's just some images here. Colombia's got the Caribbean coast, as mentioned, and there's also beaches on the Pacific coast as well. There's a set of islands just off from Cartagena that's called the Rosario Islands that are great to go and visit for the day. Look a little bit like the Seychelles and the Maldives, as you can see there. And Costa Rica. Costa Rica's got a great coastline, for two coastlines actually, but this is the Manuel Antonio National Park, which is really beautiful. It's been voted one of the best beaches in the world. I think it's like in the top 12. So lots of lovely beaches to chill out. And then just to talk through wildlife, if we've got any wildlife lovers, obviously photography is a great thing because we've looked at the landscapes, but if you love wildlife, then Costa Rica, South America does have some amazing wildlife. Just starting with the Amazon, probably not the best place to see wildlife because it's very condensed with the rainforest, but it's all about the community visits, life on the river. You get to do nature walks, night safaris, you can visit local communities, piranha fishing, pink dolphin watching. You can swim with the dolphins, preferably not where the piranhas are, but lots of different things there. And the way you would do the Amazon is either on a cruise for a few days or you would stay in a river lodge, which we can help with. The Pantanal is another great place to see wildlife. This is the world's largest wetland. It's south of the Amazon. It's best for seeing the jaguar. Now, you probably get to see the jaguar in dry season, which is June to October. So if we have any big cat lovers out there, the Pantanal is very remote and it's very much a safari feel. So you get to stay on these lodges for sort of 3 nights, full board. You go out on game drives in the morning and the evening, but there are lots of other animals to see as well. But for cat lovers, this is a great destination. And then moving back to the Galapagos, so 14 volcanic islands born out of fire, all very different, which I mentioned earlier. The best way to see the Galapagos is on a ship, and there are lots and lots of different options. We do have a specialist team. A couple of the staff that are on the team have travelled extensively around this area and know it inside out and know the ships as well. Smallest ships, you're looking at sort of catamarans that fit 12, right up to 100. And we do different levels, different standards. So, right up to the luxury ones like Silver Sea, and there's a beautiful new ship that was launched not last year, the end of 2019, called Celebrity Flora, and that fits 100 people, but the luxurious side of stuff. And it's only 100 because that's the maximum they allow on the islands at once. So it's very, very strict. There are other options. So if people don't like doing the cruises, the cruise options are usually 5 days or 8 days, and they'll do different circulars, and you'll visit different islands, and you'll go off in little boats to visit different islands that have got different animals on them. Some of them you can't actually go on, so you'll just sail around and do things like that. You get to see a lot. The other option would be to stay on the actual island. So there's 3 main islands: Isabella, Santa Cruz, and San Cristobal. Santa Cruz is where the cruises go from, and that's where you'll find the Charles Darwin Research Centre, where you can learn about the geography and the various conservation programs that are going on. So there's lots of different options here, some really nice hotels from 3-star up to 5-star. And it's one of those places where you could be sat on a bench on the sort of the side of the beach or the town, and a sea lion will come and plop next to you. You don't have to go searching for the animals. They're there in abundance, ready to come and say hello. Costa Rica, great for wildlife. 30 national parks full of wildlife, birds, monkeys, and sloths. You can even do a sloth sanctuary as well in one of the areas in Costa Rica. So lots and lots of different things to see there as well. So how will you know if you'll enjoy South America? Well, hopefully from the presentation so far, with all the things I've discussed, you'll be thinking, gosh, yes, I think I really would like it. But, you know, if you've done a tour around Canada and you've been through the Rockies, you've done sort of North and South Island to New Zealand, you'll love somewhere like Argentina and Chile, like Patagonia, the Lake Districts, and those areas. You know, Cambodia, Vietnam, tours of those areas, and India. You'll love Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia. And then you've got your wildlife side of things. So anyone who's done safaris in Africa and India, hopefully you'll love Brazil or Costa Rica. So who should go? Everybody. Families, honeymooners, anybody. So just moving on very quickly to tell you a little bit about our small group escorted tours that I mentioned at the beginning. This is different to the tailored tours. The maximum number on our tours is 60, and they're fully escorted. We have something called Make Your Day Individual, and this is a choice of a menu. So say, for example, you're on a 11-day tour. On day 2, you might be somewhere like Lima, and there'll be a choice of 3 tours that you can do. One might be a cookery class, one might be a bike tour of the city, one might be sort of a historical, like a cultural one, and you can choose to do one of those. It's included in the price, but you can just go off and do it separately from the rest of the group if you want to. So it makes your day individual. We have guaranteed departures, fingers crossed, and we have departures right up until the end of 22. So hopefully now the vaccine is here and we can start to see travel picking up again later this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. Adults only over 18, unless you are a big family that has children and there's 16 of you, then we can look at doing children under the age of 18 as well, but that would be a separate conversation. And we use 3- and 4-star hotels that are charming boutique properties. We have 9 itineraries over 6 countries and 2 multi-country itineraries, and as mentioned, the departures are up to the end of 22. Average duration of 2 weeks, and the prices range from $2,199 per person up to $4,699 per person. We do have a £200 per person off all groups at the moment. And as mentioned at the beginning, the tours that we do exclude international flights, but these can of course be added on. The reason why we don't include the flights, if anyone's wondering, is because people have they prefer to choose. So if we included a British Airways flight, for example, on a tour, and you didn't want to fly with British Airways and you might want to upgrade or go via somewhere else, then we have to take them off and move it. So it just gives a little bit of flexibility. We're not saying we can't do them. We do them and we can do them. We just give you the flexibility and then we'll add them on. But we can add flights on from as little as £400 right up until, you know, whatever price it is if you're going to travel first class. And then just a reminder of that wonderful voucher that we're giving for anyone who wishes to book a holiday through Select Travel Holidays. By the end of March, we're giving you £300 per booking off your holiday. So I really hope that you enjoyed the presentation. There's just one final thing to mention to you. I know there's a lot of uncertainty with travel at the moment still, but we do have a relax and book policy in place. This has been changed each month, so I'm sure this will carry on again into March. What this does is it basically gives you the confidence, hopefully, to be able to book with us and know that your money is safe. You can amend your holidays, we'll waive admin fees, and if Foreign Office advice changes, then you'll be entitled to a refund. So hopefully that relax and book policy will give you some confidence and hopefully help you make that decision to book that amazing tour for late 21 or even going into 22. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you and hope you enjoyed it, and you take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Well, I really hope you enjoyed that presentation, and I think it gave some of the fabulous flavour that South America has to offer. It really is a vibrant, wonderful continent. I myself have been to Peru and it was incredible. Just within that one country alone, the contrast and diversity was incredible. Rachel has also been to Peru, I went there first though, and Galapagos, and our lovely Bella has been to Brazil and Argentina. So between us all, we're happy to help with any questions you might have about South America and share some of our personal experiences. But if you do want to find any further information about either Latin routes or South America, call Team Select on 01234 326 778 or email us sales@cruiseselect.co.uk and we'll be happy to help. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching the presentation and our festival, and I hope you continue to enjoy it. Take care.